The night my daughter came home, the rain was falling so hard it sounded like fists on the roof. I remember the exact moment the door opened. Not because of the time or the storm or even the cold air that rushed in, but because of her silence. Silence can scream louder than anything. She stood there soaked, shaking, one hand clutching her arm like it was something she was trying to hold together. The hallway light fell on her face, and that's when I saw it. A bruise blooming across her cheekbone. Not new, not accidental. Intentional. My daughter, my only child, looked at me like she was ashamed to exist. And I already knew. Before she even spoke. I already knew what kind of man her husband had become. Or maybe what kind of man he had always been, and I just didn't want to see it. Hazel, she whispered. Her voice broke on my name. That was the moment something inside me changed shape. Not snapped. Not exploded. Changed. Because I am 66 years old, and I have learned that anger doesn't always come like fire. Sometimes it comes like ice. She tried to lie at first. They all do. I fell, she said quickly, wiping her face like rainwater was the problem. But I saw her flinch when she lifted her arm. A defensive habit. A learned response. A body that has been taught fear. I didn't ask again. I just said, sit down. And she did. Like she had been waiting her whole life for someone to say it safely. I brought her a towel, tea, a blanket. She kept looking at the door like it might open again. Like he might walk in behind her. And that's when she told me everything. Not all at once. No. Abusers don't get told in paragraphs. They get told in broken pieces. He gets angry. He says it's my fault. I just make him upset. And then finally, the truth that always hides at the bottom. He said if I ever left, no one would believe me. I put my cup down so carefully it didn't make a sound. That scared me more than anything. Because I knew that voice. Not his. The voice in her head that now sounded like him. He came 2 hours later. I didn't hear his car. I didn't need to. I felt him arrive the way animals feel storms. The knock was not polite. It was a demand. 3 hard hits. Then his voice. I know she's there. My daughter froze. Her entire body turned to stone. That was my answer. That was all I needed. I opened the door. He was younger than I expected. Anger always ages a man faster than time does. He looked at me like I was a problem to be solved. Move, he said. Just that. No greeting, no respect, no fear. Like I was furniture. I didn't move. He tried to look past me. I'm taking my wife home. Something in me laughed internally at the word wife. Ownership dressed up as love. I said quietly, not tonight. That was when he smiled. Not a real smile. A warning. You don't understand, he said. She came home upset, she exaggerates things. I heard her behind me. A small sound. Not a word. A fear response. And then he said it. The sentence that still echoes in my bones. She already told me you're going to interfere. You're just an old woman. What are you going to do? And he leaned closer. Lowered his voice. So I hit her. Yeah, I hit her. What are you gonna do? There are moments in life when everything slows down so much it feels like the world is holding its breath. That was one of them. I looked at him. Really looked. At the confidence. At the entitlement. At the belief that no consequence could ever reach him. And I thought of my daughter behind me. Shaking. Broken in places no bruise could show. And I stepped aside. For a second he thought he had won. He walked in. That was his mistake. Because I closed the door. Not loudly. Not angrily. just firmly, like ending a chapter. He turned around, confused. "What are you doing?" I didn't answer. I picked up my phone. And I called the police. That was when his expression changed. Not fear. Not yet. Annoyance. Like I had broken a rule of a game only he understood. He stepped toward me. "Put that down." I didn't. He raised his hand, not fully, not yet a strike, but the intention was there. A threat forming into shape. And then my daughter spoke. For the first time since he arrived. "No," she said. One word. But it shattered something in him. Because control depends on silence. And she had broken it. He turned toward her. "That's what you think," he said sharply, "after everything I've done for you." Done for you. I almost laughed again. But this time there was no humor in it. Only disgust. He stepped closer to her. And I stepped between them. Not because I am brave, but because I am done being afraid of men who think women exist to be managed. "Touch her again," I said quietly, "and you will regret it in ways I cannot undo." He scoffed. "You think you can threaten me?" And then he pushed me. Not hard enough to hurt. Hard enough to dismiss. But what he didn't understand is that you don't need to knock someone down to wake something up. You only need to cross a line they have already drawn in blood. I didn't fall. I didn't even stagger. I simply looked at him. And for the first time he hesitated. Because I was no longer just an old woman in a hallway. I was a mother standing in the ruins of her daughter's life. And mothers are not harmless. The police arrived 10 minutes later. He tried to change his voice instantly. It was impressive, really. The transformation. From predator to victim in under a breath. "She's unstable," he told them. "Both of them are lying." But my daughter had already lifted her sleeve. Already shown them what silence had been hiding. And suddenly, the story was no longer his to control. When they handcuffed him, he looked at me one last time. Not angry anymore. Confused. "How did you ruin my life?" he asked quietly. That question haunted me. Not because it mattered, but because he truly believed I had done something wrong. As if consequences were betrayal. As if accountability was violence. After he was gone, the house felt too big. Too quiet again. My daughter sat on the couch, still wrapped in the blanket I gave her hours ago. She wasn't crying anymore. That worried me more. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly. I sat beside her. "No," I said, "you don't apologize for surviving." She looked at me then. Really looked. And something in her broke open, not further but finally free. "I didn't think anyone would believe me," she whispered. "I did," I said. Simple. True. Enough. Weeks passed. Then months. Healing doesn't happen in straight lines. It happens in small returns. Her laughter came back first. Then her sleep. Then her voice stopped shaking when she said his name. Then one day she said something that stayed with me forever. "You didn't hit him," she said, "but you stopped him." I thought about that for a long time. Because she was right. Violence is not always strength. And strength is not always violence. Sometimes strength is standing still when everything in you wants to break something. Sometimes it's choosing consequences over chaos. He was charged. The process was slow. Painfully slow. But it moved. And for the first time, she was not moving backward in her own life. She started therapy. Moved into her own place. Relearned how to exist without fear sitting behind her shoulder. And I visited her every Sunday. Not as a savior. Not as a hero. Just as a mother who finally saw clearly. One evening, she asked me something I didn't expect. "Were you scared when he came to the door?" I thought about lying. Then I didn't. "Yes," I said. She nodded. "I was too." Then she smiled faintly. But I think I was more scared of staying like that forever. That was the moral, I realized. Not that fear disappears, but that it becomes smaller than truth. Years from now, I know she will not remember the exact words he said. But she will remember the moment she stopped believing them. And I will remember standing in that doorway. An old woman. A quiet house. A storm outside. And a choice that changed everything. Not because I struck him, but because I refused to let him keep striking her. Moral of the story. Silence protects abusers, not victims. Real strength is not in retaliation, but in breaking denial, speaking truth, and choosing accountability, even when it is terrifying.